Welcome back, everybody, to Markonomics 101 presents Hoot Loot, the place where you come to be informed, be amused, but never be misled. Today's not going to be all that amusing, but I'll try to make it as amusing as I can. As you can see, I am in the throes of hell. Why am I in the throes of hell? Because I think our country is heading in that direction, and we have some awfully contradictory evidence all over the place today just about that. The show today, July 24th, is called Depression, Recession, or Boom, and Inflation, Hyperinflation, or Doom. 5 decades of economic mismanagement. Are they coming home to roost? And they just may be. So prepare yourselves. We're going to continue to stand vigil at any cost. We are being censored by all kinds of big firms. You know who they are. We've talked about them at length. And they don't want you to know what I know and what I'm going to be telling you no matter what. Okay, they're going to have to come out and kill me to make that, to shut me up. But don't worry, we've already got these things. We've already got a lot of the information already on tape. Anyway, we're going to show you, we're going to skip the billionaire, heinous billionaire, ruling roost like we showed you last week for at least another episode or two. And for the reason is there is so much. And right now the markets are so confusing, and if you make the wrong move, you could find yourself a lot poorer in a lot of a hurry. So, I want to tell you kind of what you're risking out there, and maybe, suggest that you don't take all that risk and let this thing go. But in any event, if you would subscribe right down here and like, and we're going to be right back in a minute with the charts. Alright, so now we're back with the charts, and the first one is actually a little different. It's the U.S. CPI, Consumer Price Index, forecasts rising. Now, what this chart shows you is every year what the base case of the prediction for CPI for that year would be. What you notice is in 2021, it's now 3.5, even though we've already seen a 7.7 or 7.3 on the PPI and a 1% month over month. So these are already a little bit behind, and it just shows you that it's going up every year, and it's always behind. And the Fed and all those economic people at Washington D.C., they want an outcome. They don't want the truth. We want the truth. We'll let the outcome happen, and if we know the truth, maybe we can affect the outcome to the positive. That's the goal here. The goal here is to keep you from getting swindled, to keep you from getting fleeced from all the scammers out there, and to keep you solvent through what is going to be a really difficult period. All right, so so that starts it right there, and that shows you about the credibility that the U.S. government has in projecting anything. So let's go on to the regular charts. This is the last time I'm going to do, I may do Bitcoin a few more times, but I think that, cryptocurrencies are pretty much on their way out. It's starting to get recognized they have no value. They're just a password, a bunch of letters. They don't really do anything unless you pretend they do something. And you can lose that password, and as they say in Russia, well, I won't say what they say in Russia, but I'll tell you this, you're SOL, you lose all your money. Why would you want to do that? That one little mistake like that. How many passwords, how many times have you lost the password? Okay, think about it. I lose them all the time. If I couldn't retrieve it, I'd be out. And, it amazes me. There's only one entity that I can think of greedy enough to want to keep that money. The U.S. government, the feds, the people who are on our side. The people who have nothing but our interests at heart. That's why they run all the time. Tesla, here's a canary in the coal mine. As you can see, Tesla has broken down again from another bear flag. This doesn't look good. Now this looks like the market's coming down. Now a lot of the other ones are going to look the other way, and that's why this is so confusing. That's why this is, called depression, recession, or boom. That's why it's called inflation, hyperinflation, or doom, because we just can't tell, and we don't know how such things can occur simultaneously other than a tremendous amount of interference in these markets by external entities, amongst them being the Fed, who admits to buying $120 billion of mortgage-backed and treasury securities a month to keep interest rates low. Gee, that's such a good policy. All it does is create bubbles so that you can come in and rescue the bubbles, and you always have a job. Federal Reserve. Okay, that's the whole point. And make sure to keep politicians nice and rich, because they own a lot of real estate, they own a lot of stocks, and lower interest rates tend to make stock prices higher. They tend to make real estate higher, and you know, it's only good for a certain. It's only good for the rich. It's not good for savers. It's not good for the poor. You are stealing from savers. Okay, stealing from savers. Okay, think about it. Federal Reserve, you steal from savers. You've been doing it for years. Okay, you should be prosecuted for that. Dow Jones Industrials has basically now gone into a sideways, probably a bull flag. I don't know. See, again, this is where you don't know. You have a lot of uncertainty patterns. We just don't know about the Dow right now. The NASDAQ 100 continues to go higher, and thank God I have many other predictions about that. It is unbelievable to me, but this is clearly the result of lower interest rates and you know, and basically companies that are now monopolies. They're actually even countries. You know, Microsoft is worth now over 2 billion, 2.2, Apple about 2.5. Those are GDPs of some of the largest countries in the world. They are countries, all right? And if we want these countries to be enemy countries of ours, which they are, they want to take as much from us as they can. They just don't do it in taxes. You know, they do it by you know, by bribing politicians and forging, you know, basically alliances with politicians. That's called the corporate plutocracy. Some people refer it as fascism, where corporate and government work against the people. They rule the people. The people elect them. They're their boss, but the people don't act like their boss. They keep re-electing them. Please think about this. Don't re-elect them. Tell them you fire them all. They'd fire you if they could. They'd fire you in 5 seconds. They'd throw you under a bus. Look what they're doing to you with the economy. So, you know, plus the lies and all that. So just keep that in mind. That is your way out. You have the power. The S&P 500 is still looking pretty strong. It looked like it broke down for a day. Now it's going back up. Don't know what to say about this one. It could go any way. It is really long in the tooth. It is really high. And I'm going to tell you this. A lot of the stocks in the S&P 500 are just selling at nosebleed levels. Highest in history. Most overvalued in history. And, you know, the only reason they're showing growth is because who can believe a financial statement these days? You know, they're just fabrications. The S&P Small Cap Index, this one's actually kind of coming down. As you can see, there are lows below lows, highs below highs. It's broken down below some support area. We'll see, but these are the ones that often don't get all that money and all that attention. So we shall see. Dow Jones Transportations are actually looking pretty good. They are in a bull flag. They are almost broken out of that bull flag, so you know we could be seeing another boom instead of another doom. I don't know. The U.S. dollar. Here's another one. Now I still have a hard time understanding why the U.S. dollar continues to go higher and higher, especially when that is being used as just, you know, the panacea to all ills. Throw dollars at it. It's good. You throw dollars. Whatever you do, throw dollars at it. Don't worry about spending it efficiently, because that doesn't matter. American people aren't going to look and actually care, because you're not going to reveal it to them anyway, right? General Accounting Office does that, and no one listens to them. If you want to see how badly our money is spent by these people we elect, look up the General Accounting Office. That's their job. They just don't get listened to. The the tips or Treasury inflation securities. Look at these things just absolutely soar. Okay, now this to me, this is an acceleration of the belief of inflation. There's more and more information all the time that it's coming down. It continues. It's not going to be transitory because it takes months, if not, it takes months to filter through the system and then filter out, because you go from beginning crude materials to intermediate to supply, and all of those entail a price increase. So it tends to be a fairly long process of getting it through there, and that's why there's a lag. And if we're already seeing this lag already at this rate, ooh, one more of these stimulus bills. I'm really trying. I promise I'm trying not to let that get to me. Okay, I'll be very calm today. Anyway, CRB index took a little dip there, as you can see, but it's going up to new highs again. This thing up 100% plus in a year. How can that not result in much, much higher inflation numbers? How can it? Only one way, and that's through manipulation of numbers, false numbers, and the credibility of the federal government. Natural gas going up. Now we're going to have energy, which is one of the biggest components of prices and our cost of living. That's going up, and it is now starting on it. If you look at that sideways movement, that is building up steam. When you break one of those, you have a long way to go. This to me looks like it has a long way to go, and that's going to be a major factor. Energy is the biggest factor in prices and what it costs you to live in general. Unleaded gasoline, looked like it bounced down. Now it's coming back up. It's bounced off support. It's not going to go straight up every single day, but in a hyperinflation, those things do happen. I mean, people have to, get the price right at the time they buy, and even then, it's with the wheelbarrow of dollars. So I hope this doesn't happen here. And if it did, and if it does happen, that hell that you saw behind me, and boy, is my back scorched. Woo! I'm telling you, that might be preferable to what we see down here. I don't know. The agriculture fund, I've mentioned that food prices are going up. This is actually the most dangerous chart that we have, because a food shortage, which is not an impossibility, is going to cause a lot of civil unrest, and in a state that is becoming more clamping down with riot control and all that, this thing could lead to any number of consequences or outcomes. Food is going up. It is going up quickly. It is in short supply, depending on what kind of food it is, and it is because of government regulations and logistic problems and bottlenecks and stimulus checks, which go to certain people, but not to certain people, especially those that tell the truth, like me. Sugar, look at that, broke out. Sugar's in everything. And, there's almost no better indicative food than sugar. And this sugar right now, it's really, this is not a good sign. This is not a good sign, because sugar is something that is going to affect everything. We are a sugar society of soft drinks and candies and this and that. Oh, good. Okay, livestock. This is, this would be obviously hogs and, cows and things like that. But, this one looks like it may have broken up. Livestock's very hard to, to come by in the way it used to be. There are all sorts of, regulations about how they're slaughtered, the plants, the cleanliness, the regulations, the masks, the vaccines. Yeah, it's just really hard to get this kind of food. Right now, it's lucky it's not higher because the demand is lower because, we can always eat Beyond Burgers and their 27 chemical cocktail. Copper miners are major, major indicative of the economy, and I put them in here as metals. And they've kind of come down a little bit, but I don't yet believe that this has broken down at all. As a matter of fact, everything else tells me that copper is going to be in even greater demand coming up in the future, unless we have, a depression, and then I don't know. We'll see. But copper's very indicative. Right here, we're sort of again neither here, neither there. Comme ci, comme ça. Don't know. Alcoa has broken out. That's an aluminum producer. That's one of those companies that, huge company in metals, and aluminum is everywhere, and that's packaging, and they are now breaking up again too, and they've had a hell of a move. So, Freeport Copper, well, there's one that looks like it's bouncing, maybe. It's gone up 800% in a year. It's kind of entitled to pull back a little bit. I still expect that it will go higher, but we'll see. Again, things are right on the cusp, right on support lines, and so we don't want to get too certain of anything. That's why I've been continually arguing that cash is the best place right now, even though cash stinks. But sometimes the better solution is not to lose money than to lose money because you got to be invested, because cash is so crummy. I don't know what else to say, but there are some ways that you can earn a return that at least partially compensates you for inflation, and we'll show you those in a minute. Gold, I don't know what to say about it. Same thing, it doesn't go anywhere. And what's even more incredible is that while gold is up above its highs, the dollar, dollar's moved up, gold's moved up a little bit. Right now, it just doesn't look good. The miners especially. I put silver in here. That's broken down twice. Again, baffles the hell out of me because you've got dollars being printed and printed and printed, and you don't have silver being printed and printed and printed. It's in short supply. You want to get a silver coin, you're gonna have to pay way up above the paper price. And finally, the gold and silver miners. Now, these are actually looking like they're breaking to new lows. I would be at least a little long-term, bullish on gold and silver, but the miners, until they turn, you don't really have a lot to go on here, unless this just happens to be the bottom, and I don't think it is. So right now, this is something to keep an eye on. Eventually, it will have to go up. It has to. It just has to. Because you just can't have a finite resource and an infinite amount of dollars and the price of the finite resource not go up, and go up a lot. And it is way behind. It has been held down for a long, long time. And if you want to see why, look back at the episodes with Bill Murphy, and he'll explain those to you about exactly how banks keep the price down, because they are net short and there's not enough physical silver, gold around for them to not have a capital problem. 3-month treasury bills, these are starting to come up. They've gone up to 50 basis points. Again, I've told Jay Bell, might as well raise your rates, Jay. Market's doing it for you. And if you keep on insisting that there is no inflation, it's 2%, I don't think anybody's going to listen to you anymore. I mean, I sure don't. And from what I read today, your second term is in a little jeopardy. Now, I don't know what that means, because there can always be another one out there that lies on behalf of the administration. Who knows? 5-year yields, this one blows me away. These are coming down. Look at that. Continue to come down. These act like there is a depression coming. And that's the weird thing. You don't have 90, 70 basis points, 65 basis points, 5-year bonds with inflation running at, probably 10%, roughly. I mean, it depends on the person, but it sure seems that way to me by my observations. And even if it's only 8, it's still a hell of a loss every year. So 10 years, look at that, starting to just waterfall. And the waterfall's what makes me very concerned, because these rates are going down really fast. They're bouncing up here and there. But when you have a bear market like these seem to be in, it's the rallies that are sharp, and they make you think that this is going to come back. I right now don't know how low this can go. I wouldn't have told you it could go this low. I would think it was at 3% or 4% right now, if not 5 or 6. So there's an awful lot of pressure being put on these. No one in their right minds would buy one of these. And that, of course, an exemption to being in their right minds is the U.S. government, because they would, and none of them are in their right minds. All they want is to be reelected and to treat you like cattle and to get as much out of you as they can. So that's it. The 30-year Treasury yields, look at that. Now that's really come down from 2.5 all the way down to 1.8 in a very short period of time. I mean, can you imagine that there would be 2% should be your yield? That should be what you get in real return. In other words, after inflation. That suggests that the market is anticipating 0% inflation for 30 years, because that way you get a 2% real return. Well, that's not going to happen, unfortunately. And anybody that buys this, which is usually the U.S. government, is going to suffer a very horrible rate of return. So, and that means you, because they're buying it for you to pay back our national debt and for Social Security. They are such good money managers. My God, if I could only nominate them for the best in the world. George Soros, I'm sorry, Warren Buffett, move over. These are the guys. These are the guys you listen to, because they've had jobs, they're experienced, they've got great education, and they are just there for your service. Oops, went a little too far. Now, we're going to go to Apple here. Apple is broken out, and this one, again, could be signaling another move up, a boom. I don't know why. Maybe the only reason I can think of is because they've got a lot of the politicians on their side, and they're working with them to, they basically are large contributors. They get to be monopolists. They look the other way, and the regulators don't really care. So there goes Apple for you. Amazon, we've got, again, a breakout. Never thought it would happen, but this looks like, with a long sideways pattern like that, looks like it could go a long way. We'll see. Again, it came back, it went up. They're still not really clinging to a specific direction. Some say this, some say that, some say this, some say that. Okay, I have no idea. But I will tell you, but this is a good spot here. And I want to show you that we have a new investment committee. This is one person of our investment committee. Well, it's not really a person. He was a person, though. But he's green, and so he tends to make money. He tends to give good recommendations. This right here is more like a Darth Vader type of guy. He's always negative. He's not going to help you make money. He's going to tell you to buy, Bitcoin at its top and all that kind of stuff. So, I've got 2 more people on the investment committee with Ace, so we're going to give you some damn good advice, because I'll tell you, I sure as hell, I've been looking down here for my crystal ball, can't find it to save my life. Anyway, all right, so let's keep going here. Facebook, my favorite guy, Mark Zuckerberg. We showed you last week how he is the most disliked billionaire in America, and here's a guy that's selling stock like crazy, and there are so many scam shows that have come before this that talk about exactly what he's doing. The last show, as a matter of fact, had a lot to do with how many shares he's selling. He almost owns no shares anymore. He must sure think this company's going places. Microsoft, here's one that just keeps going up and up and up and up. It's exhausted, though. I really would not recommend buying this. You can't buy low and sell high under any circumstances. You can't. You just can't. So, you have to leave things like this to go away and wait for the time when everything will realign, and it will. It must realign. You cannot keep a market out of equilibrium forever. Try as all the central banks might, try as the U.S. government might, as the Treasury might, as Jay Powell might, they ain't gonna do it. Nvidia, is now the poster child for semiconductors, which are supposedly in short supply, and it bounced off a little bit from the other day, but screeched, just screamed higher. This one, Nvidia makes chips for crypto, and I have a feeling that crypto is kind of going to drag them down a little bit, because that's leaving us slowly but surely. The bank index now. Financials have started to weaken, and that's very important. So here we got the bank index. It's got kind of a rounded top, may have broken out, but with interest rates acting the way they have, these are not good for banks. Banks lend at the short end meaning where rates are really low, like T-bill rates, because that's where they borrow. They borrow from the Fed at a wholesale rate of basically zero, and they lend at a longer period. So, the more of a spread they get, the more money they make. But the spread is narrowing because long rates are coming down and short rates are going up. So this is not going to help banks. And that's a very important sector. Broker-dealer index, is it possible this thing is finally topped? I don't know. We'll see. I mean, it still looks like it could go higher, but it hasn't made much movement up. And, these stocks are pretty damn pricey. I mean, they've doubled in the last like 6 months, but who could blame them? They've had all these deals out there, and the deals have been for companies that really, in some cases, make no sense at all. But who cares? There's always hope. Hope is such an incredibly bad thing to hang on to when trading the markets. Hope is a horrible ally, let me tell you. It's like looking for a greater fool. You can never find one when you need one. I found him because I'm always looking at him in the mirror like that. So that's that's one of those things that you just cannot count on. American Express, credit card company, continues to go up, financials, but Citigroup, on the other hand, is starting to break down. So we have, again, a fractured market. JP Morgan also possibly breaking down, a Dow component. MasterCard, we showed a left shoulder, head, and a right shoulder last time. And it looks like it may either be making a bigger right shoulder, or it is going to invalidate this pattern completely and be on its way up. I'm kind of leaning toward the latter, but we'll see. Goldman Sachs has gone finally sideways. It could be just a bull flag, but from what I read, there is so much business for investment banks. They're just selling everything in sight. Visa, also another credit card company, going way up. This just shows that people are buying things on credit, and retail is 70% of the economy, so credit cards are very correlated to that. And right now, Visa says, boom, all right? Airline index, transportation. Now, what's interesting about this is that the airlines, the domestic airlines especially, there's a pent-up demand. People have not been able to go on these things for a long time. Now they are, and there has been a huge jump in domestic travel, but not international travel. International travel, not yet. Domestic travel, yes, but for how long? There's nothing fun about flying a plane, in my opinion. The colonoscopy that you get by the TSA, the stupid masks, the fights in the aisles, the crummy food, the sitting on the tarmac forever. No thank you. And the airports. No thank you. I will stay just where I am. Now, here's American Airlines. American Airlines broke down, came up a little bit. Again, not looking great. And they may have anticipated the pent-up demand for domestic flying, and that's why they went up. Now that pent-up demand is here, there's nothing new left to drive them up. And same with Alaska Airlines. Alaska, is not an international airline. So if anything, they should be the ones that should be doing well because they're getting all the domestic travel. Well, they're not. So Alaska Airlines is saying that maybe that domestic travel has hit its crescendo. It was a little blurb up, and that's it. Southwest Airlines, a really well-run airline, if there ever was one, but it's broken down. And Southwest, even Southwest fares have gone up recently, and they're pretty packed. So even with the business here, the market is not telling you that there is going to be a lot of activity quite yet. All right, UPS, another one of those package deliverers. It's sort of stuck at a top range. It burst up, and now it's just sitting there. So even it doesn't know. Boom, doom, inflation, recession, depression. It doesn't know any of that stuff. It's acting like, what me know? I have no idea. But it's very important. They deliver. They're very important for logistics, delivery, and everything. Costco, look at that. Costco shoppers are just going crazy. Okay, this is a boom. This is a boom type of chart. Now the boom part of the chart also occurs with inflation too, because what Costco has done is reduce the size of its packaging so that while you don't pay more, you get less. That's still inflation. It's called shrinkflation. But that's how people try to fool you into not noticing. Walmart, kind of going up, kind of not, sort of in the middle. Again, up, down, I have no idea. Walgreens, well, there's one that's kind of come down on you and looks pretty bad. So, Walmart has had barely a bounce, and it, they have a lot of that jab stuff going on that they've been able to do, and why this would suddenly break down and others break up that are very similar, really hard to say. It is really just an irrational, illogical market, because it's hard to imagine a scenario where Walgreens goes down, where it's doing poorly, and Costco's doing great, because, they're basically discount retailers. One's just small, one's big. That's it. And by the way, Walgreens is a Dow component, as is Costco. It's not really a small company. It's a huge company. So, it's not fair to make it like, well, it's no big deal. It is a big deal. Target, look at that. It goes up every day. Target is now not the poor man's Walmart. It is like a shishi Walmart. Brand names, execution on the website, everything. And it just, in a year, 115 to 251. How? Oh, amazing. And we have Nordstrom's here. Nordstrom's breaking down. So you have some doing well, some not doing well. Why? We don't know. We're getting completely conflicting messages everywhere. Ford Motors, we showed you that Ford Motors actually, sort of spurted up there a little while ago because of the EV emphasis of the Biden administration. And it's had a little bit of a flag coming down. Whether it continues down or not, we shall see. It actually does look like it's broken below a bull flag, which does happen, especially when a market starts to get really weak. So we'll see. Dow Holdings, this is a company that's having U.S. government throw money at them to make bridges and all the kind of infrastructure stuff. It's broken down. It rallied in advance of all the infrastructure bills. Now that the bills are being finalized, well, there's no more good news to help it out, and it's already been factored in. So Dow Holdings looks like it is probably not going to benefit much more unless we keep throwing out stimulus after stimulus. We can't do that. Intel used to be, it's a Dow component too. We used to be the largest semiconductor manufacturer, but look at it. It's broken down twice, once from a descending wedge, a long one, and now again, just last week. So you have companies breaking down, companies breaking up, companies going this way, that way. That's not that unusual, except for the fact that nothing makes sense. There is no theme to this market. All right, Coca-Cola, speaking of sugar, if you want that sugar high, there you go. Coca-Cola making a new high. And, with all this, with a lot of health type of things going around and people being into wellness, this is surprising, but they're still drinking Coke. And here's Coca-Cola is basically 90% sugar, 10% liquid. I'm kidding, of course. But the point is, sugar is important. It's a lot of foods. And of course, my favorite restaurant, McDonald's. Why do I like it so much? Because it was my first job at 16. I worked at McDonald's at $1.35 an hour. And I was rich back then. That shows you how much inflation has gone up. Now you're talking about minimum wage of 15, can't even attract workers. You're going to see it at 25 or 30 pretty soon, I do believe. So, but McDonald's going up. People are eating at McDonald's much more frequently, or the prices are going up, or their margins are going up. And that is the important thing. And they use a lot of sugar. Nike, this one is mind-boggling. Now look at this. This is a boomer. This one says people are so enamored with these $500 tennis shoes, but yet they're poor. We're all poor, but we can still afford $500 tennis shoes, and we need lots of stimulus so that we can buy $500 tennis shoes. I would like stimulus just because I believe that as a citizen I'm entitled to it. But I don't know. U.S. government doesn't seem to agree with me. Anyway, Nike's up there, $500 tennis shoes. That'll wipe out your stimulus pretty fast. And then finally, biotech. Biotech I put in here because these are all the companies that are making all kinds of new cocktails, that you're going to have forcibly administered in your arm at some point. As I understand it right now, as I've read this morning, that some of the states are going back to mandatory masks. There's a movement afoot to go door to door to make sure people get vaccines. If vaccines work, why does everybody have to have one? Why can't we have freedom of choice as to whether to take one or not? It's as simple as that. But this isn't a country of freedom of choice anymore, and that's the problem. So with that, I want to say this. We have lived through, I will be back with some more on some of these heinous characters next week. We're building up information. I want to make this a very good report. And thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you so much for your comments and all that. We're just thrilled to get real information out to you. Remember, be informed, be amused, but never be misled. And do not watch cable TV, the leading cause of mental illness. And I'll tell you this, it sure as hell's taken a lot of therapy to get that mental illness put aside. So with that, I'm going to say we're going to be back next week, Wednesday, and we're going to be back the following Saturday. Probably then we'll use that show to to reveal some of the misdeeds of these scammers, of these horrible millionaire types or billionaire types. You will simply not believe it. And with that, I want to say goodbye. Like and subscribe. Tell us you love us. Make comments. Whatever you want to do. If you want us to cover something, we will. And we'll see you next week.